It is time, at long last, after 5 hours of stalling, to make some predictions. You know, I wanted to do this actually. I've been stalling both on this stream and in my actual schedule. I know I talked about this a little bit on TeaTime, but I thought it would be really fun to have a video that contains all of or most of my predictions for Guild Wars 2 in 2023, so we can have them all listed off as a bingo card and see how hilariously right or hilariously wrong I actually am. And I want to start off with some general predictions here, actually, because I want to forecast what type of things going on, or almost like set the scene with where we are in Guild Wars 2. I'm actually expecting 2023 to be a year where ArenaNet actually focus on a lot of features and continue to push a lot of quality of life, like reworking systems, adding quality of life, improving the new player experience, right? Stuff like that. The reason is because I think they're still really, really rushed in terms of content. Basically, they rushed into the expansion, didn't have any preparation like they normally do. Normally, they develop Living World in tandem so they can kind of release it immediately. They've got to rush straight into that. They're also working on another expansion, maybe Unreal Engine project at the same time. So I actually do think, this is my first general prediction, 2023 will be quite light on content. Specifically, in terms of story content, I think we're going to be dealing with 2 to 3 episodes of Living World, right? Approximately. Maybe 1 to 2 maps will come with that. I almost expect them to do something a little bit like the Icebrood Saga, or even, you know, the Season 1 style, where the big things kind of develop over the course of that. The map will kind of like expand out, and it will be one fairly self-contained story. I very much doubt there's going to be some kind of grand overarching plot. It's going to be a very self-contained, slightly lower level story. I think a bit more reminiscent of Living World Season 3, right? Which was very focused on different factions having certain interactions, right? A little bit political, a little bit mystical, very almost like quite ambient storytelling. It was about the world and just things happening in the world. That's kind of what I'm expecting in that regard. So again, there's also going to be a strike mission with each of those episodes, I think. And yeah, I should actually mention, just in case everyone's getting this, this is me guessing. I'm predicting based on this. I think there's going to be a strike mission with each episode, right? That will, of course, have a challenge, but that's a very cold take. I think that's very standard alongside that. That's basically going to be it. And attached to these episodes, these releases, I think there's going to be a lot of quality of life. I think they're going to look at graphics optimization. They're fully swapping over the DX11, so I think they're probably going to try and squeeze more performance out of the game, maybe even update some of the lighting effects, because that's kind of what DX11's really good at. It has some more power with particles and lighting, so that's probably going to happen. I think they'll probably, again, look at stuff like standardizing the new player experience. They might take another pass at dungeons, for example. They're certainly going to look at the trading post, because the trading post is probably one of the things that is really annoying for new players to interact with. I could actually see a bit of an interface overhaul even. For example, allowing you to buy multiple stacks of material in one go. Maybe looking at making it so you don't get completely cock-blocked by trying to sell more than 10 items in one go, right? Better filtration options so it's easier for new players to find what they actually want. Then they're certainly going to have a really big attack at that. And I think that is going to be kind of the tone for a lot of updates in 2023. Probably a few more world bosses getting looked at down the line as well. That's the very, very general stuff. Now, let's talk about some of the content types here. These aren't in any particular order, by the way. I'm just kind of going through them. Fractals. I'm in the Fractal lobby right now. Let's talk about Fractals a little bit. I don't think they're going to do another Fractal this year. And that might sound insane, right? We haven't had a Fractal for a very long period of time. However, I think that ArenaNet, again, are going to be very focused on features. Making a Fractal is going to be very difficult. They're trying to push out content and an expansion. So I think they're really going to target stuff that doesn't require them to make a bunch of maps, basically. I think they're likely to attempt to standardize Agony Resistance in some way and make it account-wide. Right now, Fractals are insanely weird. They're kind of like the first group content you'll naturally encounter outside of dungeons, but they also happen to have a slightly unusual gear gate to them and a gear requirement, unlike anything else, especially the new and now kind of main endgame content of strike missions. I think that's incredibly unusual, so I think they'll probably just remove that and make it so you can just upgrade your account with Agony, and you won't necessarily need to have Ascended Gear, at least nowhere near as much anymore. So that's more likely to happen, and alongside some other systemic reworks. I imagine they'll take another swing at instabilities. They got really good feedback, actually, on the last step change. I think they did a great job with making them a bit more interactive, so instead of just being annoying, it's also something you can play around, right? You can actually do something with the instabilities to either counter them, or, of course, the enemies also have kind of an extra weakness that you can exploit because of the instability. I actually really like that design, and I really hope they push forwards with it, and I think they'll continue to do so, again, because I think they got a lot of good feedback, and the instabilities being a little bit less annoying. Not all of them, okay? I know I'm going to get mean for that, but not all of them. But yeah, that's it for Fractals. I think it will just be... They'll probably throw some new rewards at it, maybe, if they have the time, but mostly systemic reworks. For World vs. World, up next. Right. Okay, I'm going to say it. Alliances 2023. I really, really do think they will be releasing Alliances this year. And here is why. I think they've actually done a lot of the back-end systems work. That was probably mostly what they were doing, setting up how the world system worked, the world restructuring component, the matchmaker. It feels like they haven't made a lot of progress, but that's because almost all of the work they've done has been on the back end, right? And it's all the systems. We haven't seen the forward-facing interface. We haven't seen the forward-facing alliance system actually in play whatsoever. However, I think 2023, they will actually be able to push out alliances, finish off that system, and at the absolute minimum, have some pretty long-running tests with these systems, and people will be able to actually see how they work in action and at least give some feedback there as well. That's very likely to happen. And alongside that, again, I think it will be a very complete, feature-rich package. I think they're going to be looking at rewards. They've already said this. This is a very easy prediction. Looking at rewards for supports, looking at rewards for defending objectives and for taking objectives. Alongside that, they'll be looking at how sieging actually works to make it a bit more fun. I think a common complaint right now is that siege is not really that much fun to play against, so they'll probably look at that as well. Because, again, I know it's a meme, cornerstone game mode. I genuinely believe that ArenaNet really want to push World vs. World as a very important game mode, and we certainly see that with their balance approach. And this is something like, you know, we're going to talk about in the general section, right, which we kind of already went through, but a few other things in the general section are, oh yeah, by the way, they're going to keep doing those balance updates, and they're going to be targeting these other game modes, right? And even look at the situation right now. This is how we know they care about World vs. World. For the first time in a very, very long time, Ranger has a legitimately very robust build for a big World vs. World, like Zerging play. Druid. Druid is actually a very, very robust option for anyone who is a Ranger fan who wants to play in a large-scale World vs. World Zerg. And Untamed is actually very playable on the smaller scale. It sees play in GVG, in fact. So I can imagine Arena also pushing other Ranger builds in that direction. I really hope they do that with Thief as well. So that every profession in the game has a really cool build that they can contribute to large-scale and small-scale fights at the same time. It's awesome. They clearly care about World vs. World, and they want to push that as a big game mode. So again, they're going to look at rewards, they're going to continue looking at balances, we're going to have alliances, and this one's a bit cope. I'm going to admit this is a little cope. I would love them to bring back some kind of competitive structure to World vs. World, so like a proper leaderboard where guilds can say, oh yeah, who's the best guild? Not GVG, more of like an alliances leaderboard, right? A competitive element, like a motive to win, right? I really want that, and I do think they will. I think certainly with Grouch, I think Grouch is probably into this kind of stuff, right? Because, hey, he actually plays World vs. World and even has done some kind of like scrims, like organized scrims for the competitive play. I could certainly see them going for an actual structure where there's loot, there's titles, a bit like PvP for being an Assault Alliance, for being the best alliance, right? Stuff like that I think is very conceivable. I don't think they would do something like seasons again, because I don't think they want to encourage this very extreme behavior of like grinding like a complete lunatic if they can avoid it. But I think it's also quite likely that we do indeed have that kind of competitive structure and competitive element also added to World vs. World. So I think there's going to be some very big changes for World vs. World this year. The competitive stuff, that might take a while. I could certainly see that being, you know, that step 2 after alliances. So I'm kind of coping myself up a little bit here, but hey, we can roll this prediction video into 2024. Okay, like I'm now predicting the far far future of the game. But yeah, for 2023, we'll hold it back and say alliances are going to be coming in there as well. So a lot of fun stuff there, I think, for World vs. World. For PvP, oof. Okay. I don't think PvP is getting much outside of balance. At all. I don't think there's going to be a new map. PvP is simply not worth an investment right now for ArenaNet. The player base has been consistently declining. I don't think a new map would even help, by the way. And that's probably why, one of the reasons why they won't do it. PvP, it's a tough one. You know, I'd have to really scratch my head about what I would do if I was ArenaNet. I think looking at rewards, like juicing it up, because queue times have gone up and the Swiss tournament style has reduced the kind of gold per hour of tournament play, unless you win, right? Which obviously only one team wins, right? So everyone except the winner basically kind of gets the shaft. So looking at rewards there could be good. Looking at rewards for ranked could be good as well. But broadly speaking, I think the game mode just needs to be made a bit more fun. They've got to find a way to balance the game, right? And get that balance into a really healthy spot where the game is healthy. Other than that, I think, well, honestly, I'm not even predicting here. I'm saying what I think would be good. I think they need to look at moderation. I think too many players get away with AFKing or, you know, being a little bit toxic. To be clear, there aren't that many people who do this. It's like a very small minority, but a small minority ruins it for everyone, right? And I think AFKing and rage quitting can definitely really ruin your day and skew your perspective on the game mode and really cause people to kind of quit and leave. I think something that they can actually look at, by the way, are introducing a lot more 2v2 and 3v3 events to really get people together and form teams. So maybe repeating 2v2 and 3v3 tournaments as well, instead of just having it in the off-season. So adding a few more tournaments in. Tournament of Legends would obviously be fun as well, as like a big kind of blowout for the competitive PvP scene. But honestly, guys, I'm kind of coping here. I actually do not think we're getting much for PvP in 2023. That would be, if I was going to make a prediction, I talked about a few things there that I think would be good, but I actually don't see it. I don't see a lot for PvP. The only reason I even brought up the 2v2 is because we were talking about it on TeaTime. I was chatting with Naru and Helseth, and it came up that it would be pretty interesting if unranked became 2v2 and 3v3. Right, so that players kind of get in, when players are introduced to PvP, they're kind of in a more combat-oriented game mode that's a bit more straightforward to get a handle on, right? So you can learn how PvP works, the combat, how to fight stuff, how to battle with players, right? All that kind of stuff. And then once you're a bit more experienced and you've kind of got a feel for the game mode, then it moves you on to tournament play in Conquest, or of course, ranked 5v5 PvP in Conquest. That's, I don't know, it's a bit of a mess, to be honest, but that's it for PvP. And one more thing here. Here's another section of predictions, guys. Raids. There are some people who think there's going to be Wing 8. No. Anyone who thinks raids are coming anytime soon or ever, they're completely unhinged. Right? Yeah, I see Lara in the chat right now. Lara's like, oh yeah, Kirin Peak. Nope, no. It's not going to happen. I think strikes have essentially replaced raids for the time being. In my opinion, the only way we're getting a raid is if the endgame scene massively grows and they're also able to address accessibility issues. When it comes to raids, I do think that one thing that I could see happening, because we have seen the touch raids, right? They touch raids with Emboldened, right? And, you know, I'm going to de-meme here a little bit. I do genuinely think that ArenaNet will probably look at raids again. In the same way they're going to look at Fractals, they're going to look at dungeons. I think they'll look at raids. And in my opinion, the things they're likely to target are accessibility and encouraging experienced players to help newer players. How would you do this? Well, I think what is definitely possible is, one, they will add a system whereby you can open any raid boss that you want. And when I say open, I mean go into the instance and any raid boss that you want is there, right? And you can just immediately get to that boss. Or at least reset the raid in some way so you can re-clear it, for example. Then, combined with that system, I think it's actually somewhat likely they might add some kind of daily system. So a daily raid boss, or maybe 3 weekly kind of like bonus raid bosses. Daily would be better, right? Because it would encourage play throughout the week. Currently, raids, they kind of encourage you to like blast them all on day 1 and then just like not do it for the rest of the week because you basically get nothing. This means that all of the experienced players nuke it on Monday, and then the population on the LFG and of course in the broad community massively decreases. And Strikes attempt to solve this, right, by adding the daily Ender Dragon Strike, which is absolutely worth doing because it gives you an extra roll on ascended loot if you want that. So it's actually value to do, you know, when you're doing a daily strike missions, you throw on the End of Dragons daily on top of that, even if you've already full cleared. So I think a system like that is actually very plausible for raids, and I think would really help out with that too. If you want to get a little bit copy, I think one thing they could do with raids is add challenge modes to old bosses. But that's a little copium in my opinion. In terms of my predictions for raids, I think they'll look at convenience, so opening stuff, and also repeatability, right? Such that it really encourages players who have already cleared to go back in and continuously enjoy that content. Because to be frank, right, players love raids. Like, I don't have stats on this, obviously, but when I look at the raid scene, I see people have been around forever. They can't quit, right? So I think raiders are actually a pretty interesting audience for ArenaNet, especially as that endgame scene is now kind of thriving, actually. Like Harvest Temple CM certainly emboldened like the very veteran, pretty sweaty player. So I think raids are actually an area that ArenaNet could potentially just target, but it would have to be something that doesn't require a lot of dev effort. We're not getting a new raid, in my opinion. That's insane cope. But I think, again, as I mentioned right at the start of this, feature tweaks. We could absolutely get feature tweaks and some little adjustments to reward structures, and to the actual systems themselves and getting into those raids and so on. But that's going to be it, in my opinion. That's it for raids, and that's actually broadly all of my predictions for 2023. There are kind of some other general ones or meta predictions, I guess. I think that ArenaNet are going to certainly tell us a little bit about Expansion 4, probably after a lot of the story stuff is done. So, again, I'm expecting 3 episodes, 2 to 3 episodes, 2 if you're a pessimist, 3 if you're an optimist, because again, I think they aren't going to be able to quite crunch as much content as normal this time around. And after that's done, I think they're going to go boom. They're going to try and string us right into that next expansion. They might give us a few teasers down the line, right? A few little teasers, right? You know, all that kind of stuff, telling us about that. And also, this is an interesting one. And look, this, I might be completely off. Maybe I'm reading way too much into this, but I think they're going to give us very shortly, by the way, a very high-level overview of their vision of the future of Guild Wars 2. This was heavily alluded to, in my opinion, in the last post of the year in 2022. They talked about something like, we look forward to sharing our long-term vision for the game in early 2023. What that communicates to me is we are going to tell you what we're actually thinking of high level over the next 5 years. Right? We're thinking about, okay, we're going to do an expansion every X years, every 2.5 years, every 3 years, right? This is what Living World Season 6 looks like. This is what, we're going to be doing from now on. You know, we're doing this kind of stuff. We're doing that kind of stuff as well. There's one other little thing that I think everyone's forgotten about, but I think it will be amazing for the game, by the way. I don't even remember this, but a while ago when they were previewing End of Dragons and they showed Kaineng City, they accidentally showed a bit of interface that isn't in the game. And it was kind of like the old monthly style system, like combined with the reward track. Now, maybe they scrapped that. It's definitely possible. However, I think we might see something like that coming up this year. And I know I've kind of really layered on a lot of stuff, but again, feature focus. I think it's a big feature focus this year. Okay? And I think we could see that this year, or maybe next year potentially. Because if you think about it, I like this. Look, one of my most popular videos of all time, ever, is what the hell do you even do in this video game? 317k views, guys. One of my most popular videos. Like, this is like a really hot topic. It's crazy. Right, look at this. Look at it. And I think the game kind of doing this for you would be really good. Like, have a tab in the game somewhere that says, hey, you know, you've got 50 achievements to do over the next month, or honestly, 3 months potentially. Like, you know, you could have like one per episode, right? It could almost be like filler content, living world episode, and then you've got this kind of set of stuff that it will also set you to do, and that will reward you for it, of course. But it will introduce you to a lot of game modes. It might say, hey, go do a strike mission. Hey, try and do a tier 4 fractal or a tier 3 fractal. Hey, go and do a dungeon. Hell, why not? Because I actually think this could be really cool for revitalizing old content, particularly with ArenaNet's focus on this. You know, think about how this feature could synergize with getting players to do dungeons with reworked rewards, getting players to go and do old maps where they've maybe revamped a world boss, right? Like the Jungle Worm and the Shaman and so on, right? And the Fire Elemental. Getting players to get into fractals and propagating and populating these game modes. Getting people into old maps from previous expansions, or hell, even living world expansions. That might be a bit awkward because you kind of have to unlock those before you can go there, but you know, I'm sure they can make that work somehow. But anyway, some kind of guidance at level 80, I think is really good. Because the actual in-game content guide, honestly, is not horrible while you're leveling, right? It says, hey, go do this heart. Hey, go try that event. Oh, there's a POI there. You can go check it out, right? That's not bad at all. But I think we do need something at level 80 that has a similar functionality. And I do think some kind of monthly, bi-monthly, tri-monthly content guide at level 80 would be really good. And I actually think it is somewhat likely. Again, we have actually seen a little bit of a, you know, a scuffed version of this that did actually get shown on ArenaNet stream. That's not a speculation. That actually happened, right? That was shown. So I think that's also a somewhat distinct... Look at my putrid AP, by the way. Look at that. Man, I'm not an AP hunter. That's embarrassing. That is actually humiliating. Oof. Oof. Oh. Oh. But anyway, those, I think, are all of my predictions for 2023. I'm very curious what everyone thinks about those. And again, I might actually kind of keep them around and we'll refer back to this video as the year goes by and see how right or how wrong I am. I don't think I was actually that coked up. Maybe the comments, maybe the chat, you guys think I'm completely unhinged, but this to me does strike me as the direction ArenaNet is going right now, right? Certainly looking at 2022, they were very feature focused there because they were a bit pushed on content. They essentially couldn't do much with season 1 and all the, you know, the work they were doing on the expansion, now the next expansion and the next season there as well. I think those are pretty cold predictions. There's a few like outlandish things I was saying there, okay? You know, but you know, I said, you know, that I said if they were outlandish, so it's okay. That means, you know, haha, I gotcha, right? But I could certainly see a lot of that stuff happening this year. And actually, you know what? I'm going to go a little bit further. I'm going to take this a step further. I think that's actually a good approach. Okay? I really do. I think that this type of strategy is good. Because the thing about Guild Wars 2 is that the game is good, right? It's just scuffed and a bit discordant. Like, looking at the foundation of the game, looking at those systems, in my opinion, is what's gonna really make the game shine and bring out the value, right? Because there's some good stuff there. It just needs to be brought up to date and made a bit more cohesive, and for players to actually know about it and have an easier road into it, and to make it a bit more social. All that kind of stuff. That's gonna be very, very cool, I think. I have tempered expectations indeed. But there it is, there you have it. Those are my predictions for Guild Wars 2 in 2023. If you have any others, definitely let me know, and we'll, again, I'll refer back to this video in the comments section. We'll see who is right. I want to see who can make the most insane, accurate prediction of all. And then we can just say that ArenaNet stole our ideas and added it to the game. But yeah, that's going to be about it there for this little mini prediction meme. That's it. If you're on YouTube right now, you know what to do. You know what to do. And even if you're not on YouTube right now, if you're somehow watching this not on YouTube, then get over there right now and subscribe. Feed the algorithm. Leave your comments. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm right. It doesn't matter. No matter what you do, it just feeds the algorithm on YouTube. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Boom. And yeah, there's no Guild Wars 3. Guild Wars 3 is not happening. All right? But you guys want a bonus prediction before the video cuts? Sure thing. Guild Wars 3 is not a thing. The only thing that would kill Guild Wars 2 is Guild Wars 3. They're not going to do that, right? Like, the Unreal project is not Guild Wars 3. Obviously, that would be ridiculous. There may be a Guild Wars 3, but in like 10 years, right? And honestly, not even then. Guild Wars 2 is not going anywhere, believe me, right? It's so well established. It's so solidified. The player base is there. The player base is captive. We're all held hostage. That ain't happening, okay? No, 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 no. People are saying Guild Wars 1 remake. Also, no. It's going to be a new IP. The good thing about Guild Wars 1, it's still there. It doesn't need a remaster. But anyway, now I'm just stalling. I'm stalling this video. I started by stalling for 5 hours. I'm now stalling the end of the video, and that is unacceptable. Boom. Done. I'm out. Ooh. Extra bonus meme. They won't fix the guild systems.